Hey there, Makai here. Pipsi Paladin is a powerful deck that combines big decks that use Pipsi Paint Hoof, cheat out large minions, and Lynessa to OTK or one-turn kill your opponent. This is easily one of the strongest decks that you can play right now. However, some people struggle with this deck due to it being slightly unintuitive and deceptively complex. Now, before we jump into this, please remember, if you like this type of content, to like and subscribe, as I plan to make more videos like this in the future. I am testing out some new formats, so bear with me. But right now, this is the type of video I like making the most, so I hope you enjoy. The Mulligan for Pipsi Paladin will decide more games than anything else. If you have an explosive early game and can cheat out a large bomb, then you will win most of your games. The Mulligan also changes a bit depending on whether you're going first or second. Miracle Salesman,
One dose,
and High Host Silverwing are both early game cards that can keep you alive and take it forward early. Seashill and Metal Detector are great keeps that allow you to cheat out your big minion. If you have a Metal Detector or a Seashill, you can also keep one of your big minions / bombs, such as Pipsi,
slightly overboard on the size.
or Amethyst.
I will not force.
Now, when you're going first, you prioritize Miracle Salesman and High Host Silverwing. You are much less likely to keep Pipsi or Amethyst. Going first, I also like to keep Robocaller. Your goal when going first is to play a minion every turn and spend all your mana. Going second, you are looking mostly for either an early Living Horizon or a turn 4 bomb. Living Horizon is strong going second because if you don't play any cards or only play Miracle Salesman and High Host Silverwing, which put cards in your hand, then you'll be able to play a Living Horizon on turn 3. If you have Living Horizon, you can also keep Conman.
100% free.
Now, if either Amethyst or Pipsi are able to be played on turn 4, then you should prioritize that. I would not play Living Horizon over Seashill or Metal Detector, as they will prevent you from doing a turn 4 Amethyst or Pipsi. Early game is very simple, but very important. If you are playing against Big Spell Mage or another Pipsi Paladin player, you want to avoid playing early minions, such as your Hero Power. And I almost never Hero Power turns 1 through 3 versus these players, because they use Metal Detector to get coins, which put them a turn ahead of you. Now, the person that has the most explosive turn in these matchups will, on average, win the game. That being said, turn 1, you generally do want to play Miracle Salesman. Turn 2, you generally want to play High Host Silverwing. Turn 3, you're either going to play a Living Horizon if you're going second, or a Seashill / Metal Detector. Now, if you equip a Metal Detector on turn 3, kill a minion with it to get a coin, then kill another minion with it to get another coin, you then can use the coin you get from going second and the 2 coins from the Metal Detector to play a 7-mana minion, such as Pipsi or Amethyst, on turn 4. This will win you 90% of your games if you can get this off. Even playing a Marin early is pretty strong. I'll talk more about these cards. I call them my bombs because they're explosive turns that will win you the game in a bit. But just know that this is the combo that I'm trying to do early. And then if you get that down, just know that you can also conman it to do it again and win the game from there. If you can't get a bomb down because you don't have them in your hand, it's totally fine to just play a Sandcastle or a Living Horizon. If you can get one of those down early as well, they're also pretty good. So whatever you do, just try and make a big turn 3 through 5 play. Try and plan your turns out in advance. Spend your mana efficiently, and then the early game should kind of play for itself. So I've mentioned bombs a few times in this video. Bombs are expensive minions that have explosive abilities that will win games on their own. Pipsi will usually summon Ziliax, Sandcastle, Amethyst, and/or Living Horizon. This is about as big of a board as you can get on turn 4 or 5. Amethyst has a variety of uses. Her abilities are to draw 2 minions and set their health to 2 and cost to 2. Buff your board by +2/+2 and set the attack and health of all their minions to 2. All their enemy minions to 2. She also has a passive that limits the damage your minions take to 2. These are all strong abilities, but it's most important that you use the draw 2 minions. We run a lot of big minions, so if you draw 2 minions, you can hit another bomb, or you can hit your Lynessa, which can end games on its own. I will often use draw 2 as long as I have the hand space, and sometimes you do have to use the other modes, such as combining Amethyst's ability to set the health of everything to 2 on the enemy's board, and playing Prismatic Beam, or deal 2 damage from Mixologist. And sometimes if you play Amethyst and then Conman for another Amethyst, it makes sense to +2/+2 your board twice for a big board that will win you the game the next turn. Otherwise, if none of those options are available, drawing 2 is pretty much always going to be good. And remember, since Amethyst is a big taunt that it's hard to remove because of her passive, drawing 2 minions and just having Amethyst on board is usually enough to keep you alive if your opponent is pressuring you. Now, Marin is interesting because he has less of an immediate impact. I would try to play him early if you can, but he's actually pretty strong later. You almost always want to pick Wand. The only time that's not worth it is if your hand is full, or if you need immediate pressure on the board right away. Crown is also just powerful in general, just not quite as powerful as Wand. So if you ever just feel like you need to play a bunch of minions to win the game, just take Crown and don't think about it too much. It'll be fine. But yeah. Ziliax can be cheated out in a few different ways with this deck. Just know that if you play Ziliax and your opponent has 9 mana, it could possibly be Yogged. That means Yogg-Saron may steal your Ziliax. Knowing whether your opponent has a Yogg in their deck or not is something you learn with practice and playing the game a little bit more. So I won't go into that. Just know that if they're playing a control deck, there's a higher chance of them having Yogg than not having Yogg. Unless they're maybe a warrior, but even then, and if they're playing aggro, they're obviously not going to have a 9 mana Yogg in their hand. Sandcastle can be a bomb if you copy it with Conman early. Don't sleep on this play. It seems mediocre, but in reality, if you use the attack buff from one Sandcastle to the other, the location that Sandcastle leaves behind scales with its attack, meaning you now have a 6 attack Sandcastle that can buff them for 6 attack, and if that damage goes face, that's a whole lot of chip damage that will set you up for a lethal in a turn or two, more often than not, while also just absolutely dominating the board. Remember, Sandcastle gives the minion you buff a rush, so you can play Sandcastle and hero power or play another minion, or just give the Conman a rush and completely take over the board with this combo. Lynessa Combo is the second primary win condition for this deck, and it's very important. Lynessa has a few different modes, but all you really need to know is to count whether you have the mana and the damage to kill your opponent. Both of these things are important because the mana that you spend is more often a limiting factor than the damage due to how Divine Brews work. So here's some things to remember. Coins give you 2 mana instead of 1. O Manager gets you a net 2 mana because it gives you 2 coins. It costs 2 mana, and then 1 coin pays for itself, and the other coin gives you 2 extra mana. You can also get coins from Metal Detector and just from going second. Often, combos start with Manager, Coin, O Manager, into Coin, Coin. Holy spells can get a bit tricky. If you have 7 mana from the coins you saved up, when you play Lynessa and 1 Divine Brew, that Divine Brew can actually be cast a total of 7 times. Each Divine Brew splits as the entire spell cast twice, even the part that gives additional uses. So if you have a 3-use Divine Brew and you use it, you will then have 2 use Divine Brews in your hand. The total amount of splits in this is 7. The amount of casts you can get is 7. So if you have 7 mana, then you can cast it 7 times. Pretty simple. Now, to count the damage from these, you want to count how many Divine Brews you're going to cast. Times 2. Minus 1 if you don't already have Divine Shield. Or whatever target you have doesn't have Divine Shield. Sometimes it's worth putting this damage onto a minion and swinging with it if it can go face. Now, Holy Glow Stick can be cast for 1 if you've casted Divine Brew. Despite the spell originally costing 4, once it's triggered to cost only 1, it will work with Lynessa. This means that each glow stick deals 8 damage and heals for 8. Lynessa can be set up with either a Sea Shield, discounted here by 2, the turn before, or by drawing Lynessa with Amethyst. 2 mana Lynessa is often enough to win games on its own. Additional sources of damage from Lynessa can come from Mixologist and Grifta Trusted Vendor. Mixologist has a 66% chance to offer you a deal 3 damage. And sometimes the other abilities are just worth copying as well, such as Draw or Resurrection off of Amethyst. Or off of Lynessa, sorry. These are the potion components that are offered. Grifta can give you deal 6 3 out of 7 times. With Lynessa, that's enough. That's often enough face damage to kill your opponents with any other amount of combo damage. If you hit Grifta deal 6, I recommend just looking to set up a kill from hand because you no longer have to attack with anything. Grifta deal 6 times 2 is 12. Holy Glow Sticks twice is 16, assuming you have both of them in your hand. And then O Manager is 4 damage. That's lethal right there. However, be aware that Grifta's spells also go to your opponent's hand in a weaker form. Deal 6, you don't have to worry about as much. However, stealing a minion with Grifta can be very risky, as while they can steal your taunts, they can steal your Amethyst, they can even steal your Lynessa and kill you with it. I often only take the steal if I'm going to use it to kill my opponent that turn with it, or if I'm going to use it to steal like a Yogg Saron and do something that keeps me alive as an emergency type of play. The Reduce spell from Grifta can actually be played early to make your Lynessa cheaper. It can make one of your bombs cheaper so you can play it the next turn. And it can also be used with Lynessa on your combo turn, because you can split the Divine Brews to where you have multiple of them in your hand, and then reduce every card in your hand by 1, and then have 4 0-cost Divine Brews. That's pretty strong. Grifta Draw 3 can be pretty nice because when it gives your opponent a spell that's unusable, and drawing 3 cards for 1 mana is very good. And sometimes the healing from Grifta can save you versus aggro. So knowing what to take from Grifta will take a bit of experience, more than I can go into on this video. Just know that Grifta is a good card. He's not absolutely necessary for this deck, but I do recommend having him if you have the card. The final tips for playing this deck is that it has very few weak matchups. Control seems scary at first because they can heal, and our combos only do 40 to 50 damage in the most ideal scenario, so oftentimes a lot less than that. Remember not to give up with this deck. Sometimes you can win just by controlling your opponent as well. The Marin gives you more reach than most decks, so you can actually win long games versus Druids and Death Knights and whatnot. And remember that your deck has a lot of healing, so don't always go in for combos just to kill your opponent. Sometimes if you just heal a bunch, you'll win those matchups as well. Lastly, I want to thank you guys for sticking with me with this video. It took me quite a while to make this one. I had a little bit of writer's block putting the guide together, and the editing was a bit cumbersome, but I think this is a format I like. If you guys like this format as well, please let me know in the comments below. And if you like these videos, please remember to like and subscribe. That's it for me. I also remember that I do stream on Twitch every single day, so check that out as well. Thank you guys so much for all the support on this channel. It's been a little bit overwhelming. I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but basically we've hit 10,000 views on the channel since I uploaded my Overheal Priest video. So thank you guys. Thank you. I'll see you next time.